to just be a mother. And finally, she's a mother. And this is. A young mother will never grow old. A baby never to grow up. These are the faces of the mother and child gunned down at a South Richmond apartment complex. They're the innocent victims of yet another senseless shooting, along with 3 others still in the hospital.
I'm telling you, Karens would not go for this. When do we get tired of this black community? Now, I will admit, I have heard some of the sisters on YouTube talking about this lately. This thing that happens every single day in Blackistan, multiple times a day. A baby being killed by gunfire, not from the father, not a murder-suicide where the dad comes home and kills them. In the street, driving in the car, laying in the bed, a bullet just flies from somewhere and hits them, and they're dead. And I like the way the guy called it a shooting. This wasn't a shooting. This was a mass shooting. When do we get tired of this?
Waited and prayed and waited to just be a mother. And finally, she's a mother. And this is. A young mother will never grow old. A baby never to grow up. These are the faces of the mother and child gunned down at a South Richmond apartment complex. They're the innocent victims of yet another senseless shooting, along with 3 others still in the hospital. Police right now racing against the clock to get the people responsible off the streets. 3 arrests so far. The men on your screen there, all in custody.
Okay, so we in a time where white folk supposed to be chasing us around the countryside with pitchforks and torches. Where the police supposed to be killing us in the street soon as we step on our doorstep. We're being hunted from all angles by white people and state race soldiers. Who hit one if you were shocked when you saw that these was the pictures of the guys responsible for this, for the death of this baby, literal baby. Y'all keep calling Micaiah a baby. This was a baby. And how many of y'all, first, how many of y'all was shocked when y'all saw this? Like, y'all like, oh my God, I can't believe it was, that's what they look like. I thought they were going to, how many of y'all was shocked by that? And secondly, how many of y'all would have been mad if a cop would have been there and seen these dudes about to shoot that little baby and a cop would have unloaded and put 4 shots in each one of these niggas' chests? Who would have been mad? Hit one if you would have been upset. If the cop would have been standing right there, they pull up, about to shoot, guns raised, hand, finger on trigger. Just before they shoot, cop puts 4 bullets in each one of these niggas' chests. Who would have been mad? Who would have been upset, whining and crying and fussing and throwing a hissy fit all day? Just whining, complaining and crying. Who would have been like that? Like the pro-blacks was last week from Micaiah. I wouldn't have cared. I wouldn't have been mad. If right at the second these fools was about to shoot that baby, a race soldier, whatever you want to call it, a state-sanctioned assassinator, a black, I don't care. I wouldn't have been mad if they'd have came up and put 4 bullet holes in each one of these dudes' chests. I would not have cared. It would not have bothered me. I would not have made a video. I wouldn't have been online crying just like the pro-blacks last week.
These are the faces of the mother and child gunned down at a South Richmond apartment complex. They're the innocent victims of yet another senseless shooting, along with 3 others still in the hospital. Police right now racing against the clock to get the people responsible off the streets. 3 arrests so far. The men on your screen there, all in custody, charged with conspiracy to commit murder, but there may be others on the run. Good evening and welcome, everyone. I'm Kurt Autry.
And good evening. I'm Makia Turner. Kurt, tonight we are near the scene where this tragic shooting happened yesterday around 6:30 in the Belt Atlantic apartment complex. And let me tell you, I just spoke to a mom moments ago, a mother of four, who says that she saw one of the victims lying on the ground when that shooting happened yesterday, and so did her kids. She tells me that all of them had trouble sleeping last night, and this has just been a tough day for all of them. So, as you just mentioned, Kurt, there is some relief tonight in the fact that 3 arrests have been made as police continue to look for more suspects, and that's why it's so important for anyone in this area who saw anything. But you can see sort of a makeshift memorial at this apartment complex. You see signs like "In Loving Memory of Shy Shy." You see other signs that say "Put the guns down. Don't take our future away." And that just sort of puts the exclamation point on some of the frustration throughout this community about the violence that continues to plague it. So tonight, again, we are on your side with team coverage covering this story from every possible angle. We have reaction from relatives as well as neighbors throughout this community. But first, we're going to start with Henry Graff, who has the very latest on this investigation and those arrests. Henry, what else can you tell us tonight?
Makia, good evening. A trio of arrests, according to Richmond police, and police tell us at this hour they believe potentially 2 suspects, maybe more, still on the run. As for those who are under arrest tonight, they include 22-year-old Donald Hemmings, 23-year-old Shaheem Martin, and 19-year-old Shamondrick Perry, all charged, as you said, with conspiracy to commit murder. And police making it very clear tonight this investigation is far from over. A rapid exchange of gunfire between 2 groups on Richmond's south side. Now a mother and her baby are dead, and 3 are recovering.
We're there outside with everyone else enjoying the weather in a large courtyard. At this time, we do not believe that they were the target of these shootings.
So let me guess. Next time Richmond police shoot a nigga, they racist, right? They racist. Everybody in power down there black. The mayor black. The police chief. Black leaders all over the place. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the PayPal, hit the Cash App, take the $5 challenge. Support the channel. Everybody down there blackjack. I was down there in January of 20. Do I want to say 2020? Yeah, I would say 2020. This was pre-pandemic. For the Second Amendment rally down there in Richmond at the state capitol, and it literally 10,000 white boys. And there was some black guys there, Second Amendment black guys there. 10,000 no white boys. And didn't see nobody give nobody a dirty look. I never felt safer down there with 10,000 white boys walking around with assault rifles and AR-15s and all types of all types of long guns, assault. 10,000 of them, literally. A lot of y'all saw the videos when I did the video for me being down there in Richmond. Never felt safe in my life. Also went to college in Richmond, and you know, I've been around the city a little bit. You know, I'm not trying to act like, you know, I'm goddamn, you know, the Nino Brown of Richmond, nothing like that. But I've been around a little bit in Richmond. It's a rough city, and you wouldn't feel safe around 3 brothers in Richmond. They some rough cats down there. Crazy.
This investigation is far from over. A rapid exchange of gunfire between 2 groups on Richmond's south side. Now a mother and her baby are dead, and 3 are recovering.
We're there outside with everyone else enjoying the weather in a large courtyard. At this time, we do not believe that they were the target of these shootings.
In all, 5 people were shot at Belt Atlantic Apartments around 6:30 Tuesday night. Relatives identified the 2 who were killed as 30-year-old Sharnez Hill and her 3-month-old baby Naziah. The infant was shot in the stomach. A 29-year-old, 15-year-old, and an 11-year-old were all in stable condition.
So 11-year-old was also shot. And you want me to get mad every time some 45, 50-year-old career criminal just came home from the penitentiary, got warrants for beating on women and robbing people, get killed by a cop. Or I'm supposed to get upset anytime one of these jokers that just killed this baby get roughed up by a cop. I'm supposed to throw a hissy fit online and be whining about that. Or I'm a coon. Something wrong with our people. A baby, a newborn baby was shot in the stomach and killed. An 11-year-old was also shot. This is where we at, black people. An 11-year-old getting shot is no longer nothing. That ain't even the lead. This where we at. And you got pro-blacks telling us, so we need first order of business to clean up the black community is get rid of the coons. We done. It's hopeless. It's hopeless. The first order of business is to get rid of the coons. Again, we are hopeless. I think the black community is hopeless. Prove me wrong.
By the 2 who were killed as 30-year-old Sharnez Hill and her 3-month-old baby Naziah. The infant was shot in the stomach. A 29-year-old, 15-year-old, and an 11-year-old were all in stable condition. A family member tells NBC 12 the 11-year-old who survived was shot in the hand.
We know that there was a group of perpetrators who began the shooting. That first group of perpetrators, we believe, are the ones who actually struck these 5 innocent victims.
Based on the number of bullet holes, police believe the first group of gunmen were targeting one apartment. They don't know why at this point, but the chief says they have good leads, including surveillance video from the apartment complex where all this happened. Police say at least 3 types of guns were used, including an assault rifle, leaving up to 50 shell casings behind.
If you know something, I'm begging you to come forward.
Meanwhile, Richmond's mayor is noting gun violence issues have plagued the city for decades and calling for it to stop. Too many children caught up in it all, bystander or not.
First, I just truly believe that we have to value life more. We have to value life more, particularly when it comes to our precious children as well.
Back at your live, still no word right now from police on the motive or what led up to the shooting between these 2 groups here. And again, police saying they do believe at least 2 suspects right now are still on the run. They are trying to catch them right now. If you have any information that can help police on this case, please give Crime Solvers a call. That number is 804-780-1000. For now, we're live and on your side here tonight at Richmond Police Headquarters. I'm Henry Graff, NBC 12 News.
All right, thank you so much, Henry. Richmond police are still looking for at least 2 more people responsible for killing a 3-month-old baby and her mother and injuring 3 others. This tragedy and a rash of recent shootings is sparking demands for change across the city. On your side at 6, Desiree Montilla talks to a community activist about his effort to stop the gun violence. Desiree, what are his plans?
Mickey, a crew Sherman is organizing what he calls a 100-men walk, changing the narrative from men missing in action to men in action in an effort to stop the gun violence here in Richmond.
Now, I'm all for these men coming together and trying to clean up their community in Richmond. Salute, triple salute to those men. And these ain't thugs. These is the black men in the community that never get talked about. The working class black men, the type of black men that subscribe to this channel. and others like it. But one thing that you gotta understand, sisters, is that these are your sons, and most of you all are single mothers. And these are not these boys' fathers. And these men are going to come in here and they're going to be cracking heads. And they're going to be not very nice to your little sons, okay, that are out here shooting up and killing babies. In Detroit, there was an incident where the Detroit 300, which was their group, this was about 10 years ago, their group of strong black men that wanted to take back their community, and they were doing a good job. They were moving in the right direction. A little baby was killed, and they got the drop on some people who they thought were involved, and they went and jacked the boys up and interrogated them, put them in a room and was asking them questions and was interrogating them and wouldn't let them leave until he gave up some information about what he knew about this little baby getting killed. He went back, told his mama, and his mama sued the vigilante group, and they had to it disbanded the group because, you know, these vigilante groups, there's all types of they have to work with the community, has to be down with it. Once the community goes to the police, and the police have to do their job because it's a vigilante group. And there were all types of complaints from other mothers because their boys, their little thug sons that are out there shooting up everything, were getting jacked up and questioned by grown-ass men. And that's going to be a problem in Richmond if you don't get these single mothers on board, okay? Because with the Detroit 300, and just like these men in Richmond, these are men, brave men willing to take on thugs with AK-47s and assault rifles that drink lean and brag about killing people.
This week, Detroit 300, the well-known crime-fighting community organization, announced its plans to hunt down the killers of children in the city of Detroit. In the wake of the recent murder of 9-month-old Delrick Miller IV, the group intends to target local hotspots where area gangs hang out.
On July 10th, 2011, 3-year-old Ari Berry was shot and killed as she played inside her home. On July 24th, 2011, 5-year-old Mariah Smith was abducted from her home, tortured, and burned in an abandoned house. On December 2nd, 2011, 2-year-old Bianca Jones was allegedly abducted. Many in the community don't believe that, yet still today, she's missing. On January 31st, 2012, 12-year-old Khadijah Davis was shot to death while she too was in her home. Finally, on February 20th, 2012, 9-month-old Delrick Miller IV was shot to death by AK-47 round as he slept in his home. We're calling on all men to stand up. If you have an ounce of courage in you, if you have an ounce of fearlessness in you, we're asking you to stand up. We're not asking you, we're demanding you to stand up. Because these babies have been killed on our watch. These babies have been abducted on our watch. These babies have been accosted and victimized on our watch. So as men, it's demanded upon us to stand up. Now our question to you is, where are the uncles, the cousins, the fathers, the brothers of these victims, these babies? Where are you at? And what are you doing? Our message to the gangbangers and anybody else that's engaged in a lifestyle that put babies like this and our seniors in jeopardy of their lives, we're telling you, there is no coming together with you. Period. There is no uniting with you. Let it be known from this day forward, you are our enemy. Period. There is no coming together. Period. There is no seminar. There is no workshop. There is no session. There is no sit down to talk about you. We are coming after you. Period. Today is the wrong day to be on the wrong side of the law.
You have to understand this, guys. Okay? You must understand this. These men all have families. They all have little black children. And it's not these men's kids who are shooting babies dead in the street frequently. Their kids are not the problem. Yet these men are still willing to go clean up the community. So you have to think about that. It's not these men's kids. They were shut down by the people whose kids were the ones killing the babies in the street. A group of people who have kids, but it's not their kids who are doing the killing, went to try to stop a bunch of other people whose kids are killing people in the street, babies in the street every day. And the people whose babies are doing the killing shut them down. These men put their lives on them. These men could be killed. They could be, some of them have been killed. Now that's another story, but yes, some of these brothers have been killed doing this work. Because it's a dirty job. But I just want you to know that these men have families. They have children. And they're still willing to go into their community and try to fix the problem that they did not create personally. And that group was sued by a sister and shut down. Those men, the women in the community, the single moms, I'm not going to say the women, the single moms in the community, because there's a lot of women in the community that aren't single. Well, there's some. The single moms in the community shut them brothers down. Okay? Shut them brothers down. Okay? So Richmond, brothers, the 100 brothers that gathered in Richmond, man, I implore you to go and tell these moms up front that it's a dirty job. And some of their little sons, their little baby sons, their little babies that's out here shooting up and killing people all day long, they're going to come home with some boo-boos sometimes. And somebody going to talk to them with some bass in their voice. And they're going to hear things that they don't like. So when they come running to you, mama, don't go running to the police. Okay?
Sherman is organizing what he calls a 100-men walk, changing the narrative from men missing in action to men in action in an effort to stop the gun violence here in Richmond. The sirens at the scene of Tuesday's shooting at the Belt Atlantic Apartments are sounding a call to action for Cruz Sherman.
I am upset at the continual uptick in the violent crime that's occurring in the city of Richmond and surrounding areas.
This Saturday, Sherman is organizing what he calls a 100-men walk, calling for a stop to gun violence in Richmond after Sharnez Hill and her 3-month-old were shot and killed.
To find out that a mother and her child and other children were involved in this, it was heartbreaking. Most people think that the men are MIA, missing in action, but therefore we want to change that narrative and say that we're MIA, that we're men in action.
Sherman also says they're inviting city leaders to join their effort to figure out how to put an end to the violence.
We are fed up with the crime, and that we want to partner with all the stakeholders and say, what can we do to decrease the crime in this area?
Sherman says the group will walk through the Belt Atlantic apartment complex where this tragic shooting happened to show that now is the time to take action.
We owe it to that baby to
to let her death not be in vain. We owe it to the mom for her death not to be in vain. We hope that we can, at some point, stop having the rallies, stop having the visuals, stop releasing balloons, stop having T-shirts printed with rest in peace on it, and get back to a community that care about one another.
Sherman says that walk will start at 11 o'clock Saturday morning. The group will first meet on the football field at Georgia High School before walking through the Belt Atlantic apartments. Live and on your side tonight here in Richmond, Desiree Montilla, NBC 12 News.
This morning, a man is dead. 3 people are hurt after a fight turned into a shooting near 18th and Vine. KBC 9's Martin Augustine joins us live near the scene. Martin, what happened?
Well, the gunshots came, Cody, after a fight broke out inside of a business here in the 18th and Vine district. That fight was broken up, but once everybody involved in that fight was pushed out into the street, that fight flared up again, and at that point somebody pulled a gun and opened fire. Officers sent to the scene found 4 people wounded here in the 1900 block of Vine. Police and medics tried to revive a man who was most severely hurt, but he died later at a local hospital.
All right, guys, this is a very touchy one right here. I always tell you guys, don't ever tell a brother he got to leave somewhere. Now, here's the thing. If a brother's fighting inside of your establishment and you have to remove them because they're actually fighting and you don't want to call the police because you down and you know, brothers can work things out and, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to get the police involved because the police come, you know, the brother gonna get shot. You know what I'm saying? The police, you could get a brother killed if you call the police. Even though there's 17,985 police departments working every day, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, and you can name every single brother that been shot by a cop over the last 10 years. But if you on that, I don't want the police involved. When you break that fight up, leave. And then if you see that they want to fight some more, you leave and let them fight. Or call the police. We're not talking about a fight in the alley. You at a dice game and you there with your crew and another crew and a fight start. I'm not telling you to call the police then. That's street stuff. If you're in your building, if you're in your business, and some fools start fighting in your business, and they fighting like them people at the airport, you know how we fight. We try to kill each other. We trying to kill each other when we fight. Call the police. And if somebody mad that you called the police and you a snitch and all that stuff, fine, you get to live being a snitch. But you called the police because people were tearing up your business and assaulting people in your business. But this is a tough one because I don't know how you don't put brothers out when you run the business that they're fighting it. Or you're an employee at the business with it. That's a tough one.
Police and medics tried to revive a man who was most severely hurt, but he died later at a local hospital.
And it's senseless. This is unexcusable. There is no reason for this. You know, people should be able to come out and enjoy their evening and not have it end with someone losing their life and senseless gun violence.
The other 3 people hurt have non-life-threatening injuries. Police are still looking for a shooter and any information about how this went down. If you have that bit of information, police want you to call the Crime Stoppers Tips Hotline. Reporting live, Martin Augustine, KBC 9.
Gary was the gentlest giant you would ever know.
As a fitness trainer, Gary Taylor touched many lives, motivating people to give their best.
All Gary promoted was love, unity, hard work, discipline. He wanted to see the best in everybody he came across.
His girlfriend says his impact in the community was just getting started, but above all, he was a loving father. His youngest child just 16 months old.
When I think about how his 12-year-old daughter is going to have to grow up without her father, how his 5-year-old son probably doesn't even know how to process what's going on right now, and how our 16-year-old boy won't even remember him.
His brother calling the violence that took his life senseless.
I don't want nobody else to feel this pain. Nobody else should feel this pain. Too many people are already hurting. Too many people.
Okay, so those were some of the highlights from this past week as far as the mass shootings. And listen, that's two of the many. Like, there were literally probably 30 mass shootings this week. You notice once it was like, oh, well, let's pay attention to all mass shootings. They dropped that they dropped that like a sack of potatoes. Dude. So there was a shooting just last night, a mass shooting in Atlanta. It just doesn't stop, okay? It does not stop. And I'm supposed to care about somebody getting shot by a cop. I don't care, because most of the time it's the dudes that would be doing this. It's not you pro-blacks that wouldn't bust a grape, that wouldn't throw rice at a Chinese wedding. Not you pro-blacks that have moved out into the white neighborhoods, but yet get on Twitter and talk about how racist everybody is. And state-sanctioned murders and race soldiers while you living in a white neighborhood. It's not, y'all ain't gonna have, this ain't happening to y'all. This is ghetto people, working class people who live in the community. Black people wake up every morning, going to work, bust their hump, keep an apartment over their roof over their kids' heads. They the ones affected by this, not pro-blacks. Okay? Twitter blue checks. This is regular, everyday working class Negroes, like the type of people that subscribe to this channel, that's affected by these mass shootings. So let's get into this one. One person was killed and 5 others were injured Thursday night in a shooting in South Atlanta's Polar Rock neighborhood. According to the Atlanta police, it happened around 9:30 p.m. at a location on Polar Rock Terrace. They said arriving on the scene, officers found multiple people shot, including one person dead. It's not clear how the shooting broke out. APD said gunshot victims were all transported to nearby hospitals for medical treatment. It was not clear how many there were, though they said at least one additional victim drove himself to an apartment complex about 3 miles east, where he said he was also shot at the Polar Rock Terrace scene. Investigators were notified and will be working to determine the circumstances surrounding the shooting.
Law enforcement had the home surrounded and evacuated residents nearby. The standoff ended around 11 last night, more than 13 hours after it started.
WCNC Charlotte's Brandon Goldner joins us live at the Watauga County Sheriff's Office.
Fred and Sarah, this memorial behind me at the Watauga County Sheriff's Office continues to grow. Law enforcement officers from throughout the area, as well as family and friends of these deputies, coming to pay their respects.
Lord, for the officers.
Instead of having their Bible study at church,
Lord, would you just watch over the families of Christopher Ward, his daughters,
these young men came to the growing memorial for Watauga County Sergeant Chris Ward and K-9 Deputy Logan Fox. None of them knew the deputy.
Their families didn't know they weren't going to see their father after that day, you know? and it's really sad, and it's heartbreaking.
Donna Ward is related to Sergeant Ward. She stopped by the memorial earlier this morning. She was listening to her police scanner when Sergeant Ward was shot.
He was the sweetest, kindest. When you do anything for you.
His fellow deputies and officers did anything and everything to save Sergeant Ward and Deputy Fox's lives. Deputy Fox got trapped in the house after being shot. Boone Police Chief Andy LeBeau says one of his officers and an SBI agent tried to save Deputy Fox. He says the suspect shot at them, the bullet hitting his officer's helmet, saving his life.
We had to make him go to the hospital because he didn't want to leave his partners.
And Ward says the community shouldn't leave the sides of these deputies in mourning.
Hey, I'm on my knees praying every morning for these people. I pray for everybody, but these officers, they have a tough job.
And Deputy Fox was particularly well known in the animal community, being a canine officer. Coming up at 6, you'll hear from the local pet shop, who says Deputy Fox had a tremendous impact on all of them. Live in Boone, Brandon Goldner, WCNC Charlotte.
They have such tough jobs. Our thoughts and prayers with their families. Brendan, thank you.
And we continue to follow breaking news at this hour out of Boone, where we're learning of 4 people dead, including 2 Watauga County Sheriff's deputies. A 5th person, the suspect, also dead. This all after an hours-long standoff. Thanks for staying with us here for the news at noon. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Carolyn Bruck. This afternoon, we are seeing photos for the first time of the officers killed. Sergeant Chris Ward and K-9 Officer Logan Fox were doing a welfare check on a family when they were killed in this. There are 2 other victims killed. We're told they're somehow related to the suspect. Police say the suspect locked himself inside of that house for hours before taking his own life. His name and the 2 other victims' names related to him, they have not been released just yet.
All right. So this is the guy, Isaac Alton Barnes. Killed those 2 deputies and killed his parents. Okay? The reason I'm putting this one in here is because this was one of the ones where it was a white mass shooter. The majority of the ones were black. Like, basically all of them, except for this one. But I'm putting this one in here because, as I told you guys, we gonna cover it all. This is not a problem in the white community. This is not something that's happening every day in the white community. But this guy killed his parents. And he killed 2 deputies, ambushed them. Like they didn't even see it coming. Two guys going to check up on some doing a welfare check, going to check on some people, see if they all right. And this idiot, this redneck comes out of nowhere and ends their lives on the spot before they even have a chance to react. If this starts happening in the white community as frequently as it happens in the black community, and not to invoke Chris Cuomo, his comments from a few weeks ago, he said, police reform won't happen until white kids start getting killed by cops. But I will tell you this. If this scene played out every single day somewhere in white America, instead of once a month or something, once every couple of weeks, amongst their 200 million population in the United States. So think about it. This happens every day in the 400 million population of black people. This happens once every 2 weeks to a month in the 200 million population of white people. So this would have, in order for this to be on the same scale as it happens in black America, this scene would have to play out 5 times a day in white America, just for it to be equal to the scope of what happens in black America. And I'm being generous with once a day because we know it happens more than once a day. And the guy, the shooter, called the police last weekend to warn them that he could pose a danger. But they can't arrest you unless you've committed a crime. Maybe they could have committed him to a mental institution or something. They can't arrest him just for saying that he... Authorities were able to locate him. However, they didn't expect him to be able to at the house on Wednesday morning. We were trying to get him away from some place where we could have more control over him. He just decided to take this route. So they were trying to get him into a mental, some kind of place. Could you imagine if these two deputies couldn't stand a chance with this guy? Could you imagine if they sent some social workers over there?
In the aftermath of the mass shooting, the owners of a nearby market clean up, working with Gresham Police and Portland Fire. The building caught in the crossfire of a drive-by shooting late Monday. A group gathered to remember 22-year-old Alejandro Barajas, who was shot and killed here Sunday night. Gresham police say around 11:30 Monday night, a dark SUV drove by and someone inside shot at the group. Some in the crowd fired back. 7 people were taken to a hospital and are expected to be okay.
It was never like this before.
People who live...
So when our brown brother here says it was never like this before, do you know what he's speaking of? How many of y'all know what he's talking about? He's talking about before those white liberals stripped the Portland police to its bare bones, got rid of a lot of different units out there in Portland that were keeping the crime under control. Because a man died in Minneapolis in a legal police maneuver that was, I guess, executed poorly. And now the people of Portland have to suffer. And there's protest every night in the streets. In the Portland Gun Memorial, to be as white as Portland is a white town. Lily white town. And then you go to the Gun Memorial and you see a bunch of Latinos and blacks. Because defunding police doesn't affect white people the way it does affects Latinos and then blacks. It affects Latinos somewhat, but it's like it's Armageddon apocalypse for blacks. It's an apocalypse for blacks, but it affects the Latinos somewhat, not as much as you think, because and I'm gonna do a video on that next week, because Latinos live in poverty all over the United States in very low murder rates. Poor Latinos in America have very low murder rates compared to blacks. Slightly higher than whites, but extremely eons lower than blacks. But you take the police away and the gangs have free reign. That's what he means when he says, it was never like this before.
It was never like this before.
People who live and work in the area believe this was gang-related, but police couldn't confirm that.
Well, it's like a war zone. It's like, it just unbelievable. It's crazy. I mean, it was never like that. I think it's very sad, and it really needs to stop.
Other neighbors and business owners were worried about going on camera. Police haven't arrested anyone for Monday night's shooting. They did charge 21-year-old Omar Cibrian Gangora with second-degree murder in connection with Barajas' death. He's also charged with illegally using a weapon.
But when it's people of color that are the victims, like this young man that was shot a few days ago, there's no outrage.
Okay, you got almost 200 straight days of protest in Portland. And did you hear what this white man said? who's not part of that. He ain't part of that whole liberal bullshit. He said when it's people of color, Latinos and blacks that get killed, there's no outrage in the city where they've been protesting for 200 straight days. You have to understand that. White liberals have been protesting in Portland for 200 straight days. However, at the same time, they've allegedly been protesting for Black Lives Matter for 200 straight days. They've assaulted the mayor, they've torn down, burned police stations and state buildings and courthouses, all while chanting Black Lives Matter. In the same city, when a Latino or a black person gets killed, there's no outrage. Think about that. We've been had, y'all. We've been used as a prop by the Democrats. White liberals used us as a prop. They're using us as a political pawn. They don't even have any empathy, any compassion for the black people that died in their city. They're concerned about a guy in another city 2,000 miles away because they can use it because he was killed by a cop allegedly, and they can use it for political purposes, to defund the police and to get Trump out and to create the specter of racism that they're going to save us from. Meanwhile, in their city, the gun memorial looks just like the gun memorial anywhere else. And it's lily white. Like, this ain't like a town where you know how you're 30% black, 20% black, like 7% black.
But when it's people of color that are the victims, like this young man that was shot a few days ago, there's no outrage.
Community activist Sam Sachs showed up to the scene.
The city, the county, and the state all need to come together to address the gun violence. And not just from a legal law enforcement aspect, but from investing in communities of color.
Multnomah County DA Mike Schmidt's office is helping Gresham police with the investigation. In a statement, he says, the gun violence in Gresham shows the urgent need for more community-based programs that work to prevent gun violence and respond to the emotional trauma left behind.
We have to do a better job.
Commissioner Lori Stegman says Multnomah County has services for responding to increased violence.
By providing mental health services, wraparound services where you have people with lived experience who understand the challenges that so many people are going through, that having that voice and that shoulder to rely on is just paramount.
Commissioner Stegman is partnering with a Gresham City Councilor, she told me today, to hold community conversations. They're going to focus on how the county and the city can improve their services and their response to address the growing gun violence. More than 270 shootings have happened so far in the Portland area just this year, a number we didn't reach until midsummer of last year. Gresham police want to hear from anyone who knows anything about what happened here last night.